Hi, my name is Raymond Lutz, and today I want to give you some practical instructions about how to use video recording equipment to record local meetings, mostly for documenting our local governmental bodies that sometimes don't get anyone watching them at all. A while back, I started an organization called Citizens Oversight Projects, and what I discovered was that a lot of these meetings, whether it be school board, planning groups, the commissions of various types, almost no one was showing up to oversee these bodies to say, what are you doing? And most of the time, most decisions, maybe 95% of those decisions that they make are fine. Anybody can make those decisions. However, there's like the last 5% of the decisions that can be questionable, and that's when we need people to go to those meetings. Now, as a citizen in a democracy, it's your duty to oversee the entire government, top to bottom. Of course, just to find out how big the government is almost impossible. So the idea that you're going to be able to oversee your government is impossible by yourself. However, as a team, if each person takes a single body to oversee, I'm talking about maybe 1 or 2 nights a month, and especially if they can go in and videotape meetings that are important and put those up on the internet for other people to see what's going on, then you have some real power. In fact, one of the most powerful things that you can do as a citizen is to go into these meetings with your videotape recorder and then put those videos up on the internet on a permanent basis. I really have 2 purposes in my little presentation. Number one, to get people to help me with local production of, capturing of these meetings when I can't do it, using my equipment. And secondly, to give you some ideas about how you could do it yourself and what kind of equipment you may want to get. So I'm going to be very specific about my equipment, but by no means do you have to get this exact equipment. I have a little bag that I use to carry my equipment in, not too big. And the camera that I use is a Canon Optura 50. You don't have to use this particular type of camera, but the reason I got it is because it has this microphone input jack, which allows me to improve the audio input for meetings where I have an important speaker. In this case, what I have also is I've added this wide-angle lens, which just screws on to the normal lens, which allows me to get a wider angle. A lot of these meetings has a panel across one end of the room with maybe typically 5, 7, sometimes 15 people along a table, and you can't get back far enough to get everybody in, and you're constantly going back and forth. So with this wide-angle lens really helps a lot so that you can get up a little bit closer, and you can still zoom in quite a bit. I also have this larger battery that I purchased and put on here, but it still is not enough charge to go through these multi-hour meetings that you'll come in contact with. So you will want to plug in to every meeting that you go to. First step when you go to the meeting is to get your tripod out. This tripod is a fairly heavyweight one, but it's a very good one, I find, because it does have that little bit of weight is actually a good thing for stability. You extend the legs. I'm going to do it exactly as you would at the meeting. Now, as I do this, I'll mention that every governmental meeting that you go to in California, they're protected by the Brown Act. And you're allowed to bring your camera equipment in and set it up and record the meeting. They cannot stop you from doing that. And you have the most power when you also remind them that your videos are going to be mounted on the internet on a permanent basis, and suddenly they become a lot more courteous to you, it seems. You want to get a tripod if you not using this one that has this panning arm here, and then there's a small screw hole in the bottom of the camera which you put this screw into here. screw the nut in, and then this black nut, you tighten that black nut up. So there's this first nut, silver nut, that you tighten first, and then this black nut that you tighten second. Before you go to your meeting, you want to have adequate number of tapes. This camera, the way you do your tapes is you open the door and you let the mechanism pop out. Don't be pushing on this. In fact, it says do not press this part. These cameras use these mini DV tapes, which are rated for 60 minutes, and they hold about 62 or 3 minutes of video. However, I recommend that you stop at about 55 to 58 minutes, because once you get your video into your computer and you want to upload it to services, the compressed form is less than 1 gigabyte, and that's been the limit lately for what they'll let you do for free. Put the tape in, orient it in the correct way with the sort of arrow end down. Then you push this part in, but don't press the rest of it down, and it'll pull itself into the camera. Then you shut the door. Okay. The first step is to put this into VCR mode. I'm going to take it off the tripod so you can see what I'm doing here a little bit closer. I'm using the webcam today because I can't shoot a video of myself showing the video camera, obviously. A few settings that you want to make sure that you get is this setting right here sometimes gets moved, and it needs to be set to auto. And when you turn this into the VCR mode, that'll let you rewind the tapes. And before your meeting starts, you want to make sure that you've got your current tape rewound. See, it's rewinding a few minutes of video that I took earlier. You want to make sure that it says tape mode right there, and stereo and so forth. Now you don't get to see the microphone in this mode because that you only see when you're on camera. Once you get it rewound, and by the way, get all your tapes rewound ahead of time because you don't want to be spending time rewinding them during the meeting. Then you flip this switch to camera mode. This button right here, the silver button, is the start and stop button for recording. And as you see you can see the oh, I can get my picture in the, I can turn that right. Okay, you can see this little gauge at the bottom is actually the audio gauge. It's really helpful to have that on when you're recording. Let's see if I can kind of be tricky and put this right over myself. Okay, it's hard because this has a time delay. Okay, yeah, see, there's my face. Now, when you press play, which is this button here, this silver button, play. Now, this is very important. What you want to see is in this corner right here, is you want to see that little dot, and you want to see the time going by. Sometimes I'll flip that switch and I will not quite get it on and pressed, and then I'm sitting here thinking I'm recording, and the whole time it's stopped. Then when I say stop, it actually starts it, and then I'm watching my feet walk around. You want to make sure that's going correctly. Stop. Now up here, these controls are to zoom in and out, and you can try to, when you do zoom in and out, you can I guess I can show this. You don't have to push the switch all the way. I can see the switch at the same time. Okay, here's the switch. Zoom in, zoom out. Okay, but you don't have to do it that fast. You can just hold a little bit and zoom slowly. And it's very effective to zoom slow rather than fast. Okay. Now the fact that I have a wide angle lens on this is why you can see that I can get more in there. And of course I'm too close for it to zoom in that close. What you'll find though is what you want to do is get close enough so that you can get one person at one person's head talking. That's as close as you're going to want to get in the meeting. And that you should be completely zoomed in. And then when you zoom out you can get more of the meeting. So in general, what happens? Start of the meeting, you press record. Zoom in and pan to the people talking as necessary. Try not to do too much movement and too fast, because you get people seasick by watching the movie. Then at about 55 to 58 minutes, find a convenient time in the meeting where you can pull the tape out. Press stop, open the compartment, let the tape pop out, and then label the one that you have so you don't misplace it and put a new tape in. You want to have your tapes all rewound, ready to go, and you can reuse the tapes, but you need to have them there ready to go. You don't have to have new tapes, although I tend to want to use new tapes so that I can keep those old recordings just in case I screw up somewhere, and then close that. Now when you're set up here, I want to cover one other thing, because you're going to want to plug this in during the meeting. So again, you've got this on the tripod, and we need to add power to this. And so in the bag of goodies here, I have power adapter and the power cord. I use Velcro to always keep my cords in line. You can buy those little Velcro strips so that your cords never get tangled up and will fit into your bag nicely. The important thing is here is that this adapter and all the cable is sort of heavy, and it's too heavy for this little tiny connector that they give you. So I plug this connector in here, and then I have a loop which I put over this knob. There's got to be something on the tripod you can use to take the weight off, you see, and then this thing can hang on that knob, the weight, and it's not going to wreck that connector up there. And plug this in. You may need, and you likely want to bring, one or more extension cords, because you're not always going to find an outlet right next to where you can set your camera. Again, they have to let you use your camera in the meeting, and they're pretty cooperative generally. So I'm going to plug this in here, because it automatically goes off after about 2 minutes if you don't have that plugged in. Now I want to cover one more thing. First let me say this, is that when you go to these public meetings, you're going to have no control of the lighting. Generally you're going to want to just use the microphone in your camera so you can get anyone in the room speaking. However, with certain types of events, let's say you have an important speaker coming, maybe an author or a public official or a candidate, you really want to get the audio. Getting good audio in your recordings is one of the most important differences between amateur video and the more professional video. In my bag here I have a lavalier microphone, which to the person, which we're anticipating having a person come soon, you just mount this on their collar here, and we have this power adapter, which as usual I forgot to take the battery out. I just recorded this earlier. Now this has this this large XLR type connector, which is a 3 type connector, XLR, and it's a balanced audio connection. This is typical for microphones. And this is a little mini XLR that this lavalier microphone uses. And also this lavalier microphone requires, as most of them do, a battery pack to power the microphone. Plug this on there, and very important with this particular thing, take the battery out when you're done because there's no power switch on this. The mute switch doesn't turn the power off. When you put the battery in, make sure that you have the polarity correct. The big guy here is a minus, and that goes in that way. On. Now the power light's on. Okay, I've got this hooked up there, and now this connection, we need to get that into the camera. This cable here adapts it into the camera. The camera actually, I've discovered, takes a balanced signal. This little connector here, which is a typical 3.5 millimeter stereo connector, actually has a balanced signal on it. We're plugging that into the microphone connector and then plugging this in here. Now if you're actually setting up for recording in a large facility, you're going to have longer cable than what I'm showing here. But it can be extended at any point, even at that top point. Now, as an example, I'm going to take the camera off again so you can see. I've got the microphone on. We've got it in camera mode, and you can see here the audio little meter at the bottom of the screen showing the audio as it's being recorded. If you're getting that level of audio that you see right there, then you're set up okay. Very important as you have special speakers come in to speak to get the audio set up correctly. And then when you get back to your computer, what you have to do is take each one of these tapes, hook the camera up to your computer using an application like Windows Movie Maker is one that comes free with your with PCs, for example. And then when you plug it in and you put this on VCR mode, the application will pop up and say, do you want to capture the entire video? And at that point what you do is, yes, the entire video gets captured onto your computer in a RAW form. And that's a whole separate step to the rest of the editing process. You do that for each one of the tapes that you've recorded. And then you go through the recording process of taking each one of those files and bringing those into Microsoft Movie Maker or any other application that you might use, putting them together into the entire video, adding titles at the beginning, credits at the end, maybe the names of the people who are speaking if you really want to be elaborate, and then exporting that into a form that you can put on the internet. And you may want to do one tape at a time. If you have a multi-hour presentation that you've captured, do one tape at a time at about 55 to 58 minutes, and then they will fit into that 1 gigabyte size, and you'll be able to upload that directly to a service such as Blip TV, which lets you upload for free 1 gigabyte a day. Then let your community know through Facebook and other social services about the videos that you've uploaded, and voila, you've got hundreds and maybe thousands of additional people watching those meetings and keeping our officials in line. This is the whole idea of citizens oversight. The media will no longer, nor have they really ever, done a very good job of monitoring, especially these smaller bodies, but we can do it. We all need to get a reasonably good video camera and get busy. Hey, thanks a lot. Ray Lutz, citizensoversight.org. Bye-bye.